What's up, guys? We are here on the Brooklyn rooftop back with JJ Devaney of the Offside podcast. It is not a great day.
Abject failure, a disaster, an embarrassment. But it wasn't just about last night. It was this was the culmination of a shit show qualifying campaign for the US, and there's no other way to look at it, really.
Yeah, it started with Jurgen Klinsmann. It ended with Bruce Arena. Bruce Arena said we don't need to make major wholesale changes based on this result. What do you think about that?
Look, I mean, he has a point. Ordinarily, he would have a point, but this is such a monumental disaster that it's hard not to want to burn the whole thing down, hit reset, and start all over again. There's questions going to be asked. Heads should probably roll. His own head should be first, because that's the way it works. He calls the shots, and he's got an answer to that. But an overall view of what's happened needs to be looked at before we start saying exactly who should go. But it's hard to see the manager surviving, first of all. Yeah. And there'll be questions about Sunil Gulati, and the whole infrastructure of UF soccer is now under the microscope.
What did you think of the performance specifically last night? They looked flat. They looked so flat, right?
They did look flat, Aaron, but is this something you haven't seen before, particularly away from home? I keep going back to this on the podcast. I keep going back to this when I talk in the pub with my friends. And we've got that friend who's like, well, why isn't, the US going to these places like Panama and going to Trinidad and Tobago and winning? We can't keep the ball for any distance to set a tempo, to set a kind of a construct for how we want to play. If you can't keep the ball, then you got to be damn good at getting it back, and we weren't good at that last night either. This game last night was pretty much the same as every other game, except this one we lost.
Yeah.
We lost away to Costa Rica, don't forget. We lost away to Guatemala in the early parts, which has completely been whitewashed from history.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been dire, and last night was no different from any other qualification game away from home.
No, he names a completely unchanged 11. They won their last game, got the result they need. 3 days later, in Trinidad, pitch is bogged down.
Okay.
Those guys look tired from the start. It looks like it's just Michael Bradley in midfield. Do you think you should have changed the 11?
Oh, look, I applauded the fact that we had a consistent selection. We didn't have a rotation at the goalkeeper that mental batshit crazy stuff that he was doing between games, which I never understood. Look, I applauded it, so I'm not going to pick on that. I was shocked at how fatigued they were.
Yeah.
It was a real shock to me. So in hindsight, he should have freshened it up. But look, that 11, tired or not, should have been enough to get the job done, and they were 2-0 down at halftime.
Really quickly, the own goal just got into their heads. Immediately, you could see Omar Gonzalez was completely shaken. He almost should have given away a penalty directly after that. Those guys it looked like the atmosphere, it didn't look like they wanted to win. What did they need from that?
I mean, that's a damning indictment to say something like it didn't look like they wanted to win, but what else could you say? I hate talking about efforts, I won't say that, but the energy needed to take the game to Trinidad wasn't there.
Yeah.
There was 10 people there. You could hear the droning of the generators in the
pumps.
background. Keeping the lights on. It was a weird, surreal atmosphere, and I don't know where Trinidad took the initiative from, where they got that energy and that zip to their game, but they had it and the US didn't. And all of a sudden, like you said, you shank a looping ball into your net from your centre back, and you're on the back foot straight away, and they couldn't recover.
A lot of people want to blame the conditions, but Trinidad kept the ball.
Right.
They were playing the ball all around the U.S.
But we never keep the ball.
No, we don't.
We don't. And sometimes at home when we're shellacking a team like we did in Orlando on Friday, and we've got that momentum behind us in the crowd, we keep the ball for a period. But when we're away from home, when you really need to have someone get the foot on the ball, calm things down, set the tempo, set the initiative for how you want the game to go, we can't do it. And that is a technical issue, and that goes way deeper than Bruce Arena, Jurgen Klinsmann, Sunil Gulati. That is a structural, a coaching problem, a scary problem.
Everything blew up. Every single result that we needed to not go our way went against us.
If we just take it on the day itself, all right, let's forget the fact that we were terrible throughout qualifying.
Yeah.
There were a selection of things that had to happen for us to go out. That all happened.
It all happened.
It was the most crazy stuff you've ever seen. From Honduras getting a goal that's bounced off the back of Guillermo Ochoa's head and gone into the net. A goal that if you scored it on FIFA, you would record it and show your mates afterwards. Look at this glitch. How hilarious is this? This is the craziest shit I've ever seen. We had a goal that was for Panama that was a ghost goal. It didn't cross the line. It didn't even get close to the line. That all happened. Those two wins were Panama's win over Costa Rica and the Honduras win over Mexico were pretty much inconceivable.
Yeah, couldn't have been any more CONCACAF. And
we have Omar Gonzalez.
We were the ones to go out because
Omar Gonzalez with that ridiculous, I mean, that's going to be replayed forever on bloopers as one of the craziest own goals in history. And then we have Alvin Jones with an Exocet missile goal that I'm sorry, he's not scoring that again. No. 35 yards out on the right-hand side.
He should never take that shot. Ever.
And it all conspired against us. And as much as I want to feel sorry for myself for our one night of terrible luck, we are where we are because we've been bad. When you talk pay for play, you're talking about US youth soccer, where you may have a fee of $1,500 to play as a youth player.
On the low level.
On the low level.
Yeah.
I've seen it up to $3,000 plus.
3 to 5. Yeah, it's wild.
So where we get a lot of our sports stars and from in this country, in the other leagues, is from, we'll say, underdeveloped, lower, we'll say, socioeconomic point of view regions. And we can't tap into that if we have these exorbitant prices, because the US family right now can't afford to pay $3,000 for a season of soccer.
Right.
And that's a huge problem. I agree with you. We're not tapping into the areas we could be tapping into. That's one thing, definitely.
And I think I saw a lot of it going around Twitter, and just you see it a lot. Das Reboot, the book from Raphael Honigstein about Germany's, when they missed out on I think their abject failure was 2000.
Yeah, 2000 they got beaten by England in Euro 2000 in Holland and Belgium. They were very poor, and they had Lothar Matthäus playing at, like, he was 37 or 38, playing a key role for them, and they hadn't moved on.
And everyone came together.
Right.
They said, we have to figure this out. We have to do it, from the Deutsche Fußballbund, from Bundesliga, Bundesliga 2. Everyone in the country came together and said, we have to figure this out. We have to blow it up. We have to start from the bottom and go up. And that's exactly what the US needs, but I don't see it happening because too many people make too much money off this sport in this country.
You're so right about that. I mean, there was a holistic approach in Germany, and you look at our approach right now. Look what's happening just on the base level in this country. You've got a league basically involved in an antitrust lawsuit against US soccer, okay? You've got that problem there. You've got a whole argument over Division 2 status. You've got this issue over the colleges game. How can we integrate that properly as a good standard and a way to get players into MLS? You've got MLS, which doesn't have promotion and relegation. Is that incentivizing mediocrity?
Right.
You've got all these issues, and you've got so many different players involved in them, and there's no link between them all. So they really have to get together like a conference, like a meeting of the minds. But like you said, there are so many interests involved in this. Is that going to happen?
And then we're just dealing with the US as a country as a whole. It's a huge geographic area.
Right.
And then the US, we have infighting. Every single state is basically a little country. So there's so many issues to deal with. I don't really know where we go from here. I don't know how we fix this. And it's kind of disheartening because you look at where we are now and then you look at where we're going to be, and it's like, I don't know how we get to, if the goal is to win a World Cup, I don't see a clear path to how we get to it.
Well, you make a great point about, like, state to state. If you go to, like, say, New Jersey, it will astound you how many different federations are in charge of different parts and leagues of the youth structure there. And if you extrapolate that across the 50 states, oh my God, I mean, it's crazy, it's a mess. So there has to be some kind of unifying force and some kind of streamlining way of getting us to the point where we're, developing these players and bringing them on with the aim to win a World Cup.
Yeah.
That said, we have a couple of players coming on. We've got Weston McKennie at Schalke, we've got Christian Pulisic, we've got DeAndre Yedlin. Josh Sargent as well. Yeah. There is hope, but the hope seems to be you develop a player to a certain point out here and get him to Europe as quick as possible.
So the US is out. Now, as fans, we got to pick someone else to get behind. How do you choose? How do we choose? Or do we? Yeah, do we?
I don't know. Sometimes the team chooses you. So As an Irish fan, back home I spent a lot of time, watching tournaments that Ireland weren't in my teenage years, and a team can grab you, like Croatia in '98, in Euro 2000, like the Dutch were so good, they got to the semi-final. I was all in on the Dutch, as you can see, even though that's not going to happen this time around. We're in America, and everyone's from somewhere else. So maybe you get into if you're an O'Boyle or a Mulligan, maybe you start, well, if Ireland or Northern Ireland qualify, you get into them. If you're a Smith, maybe you have a look at England. Maybe you do it that way. I really feel for the US fans because they are just so vibrant, the American Outlaws. They brought something really unique in 2014 to that World Cup and to the streets of New York and the streets of every city with the watch parties. The fact that that's gone is galling. It's not replaceable in that sense, but maybe you can find a team or a player that captures your imagination.
This is the beauty of the World Cup. If your nation is not in it, and then for the States, we're out by the knockout rounds anyway, so you got to pick someone else. So we just do it a little bit earlier now. Just pick a new team a little bit earlier, I guess.
And look, there's so many great fan bases, like even in this city alone. Maybe it's just something, you get all the teams out and you just pick a team randomly, you go get that jersey, you find out the nearest party, go with them and have fun with their fans. And you know what? You'll meet new people, experience new cultures, new food, make new friends.
You can't go wrong that way.
I'm looking for positives here. The big thought was that the apocalypse with Argentina didn't happen. And that's huge because as much as we like a shock, and we do love a shock apart from the US shock, everybody enjoys when a big team is found to be, its flaws are exposed. It's kind of just like on a tabloid soccer level, it's fun to see the giant fall. But we're delighted Messi's going to be at a World Cup when he's still in his peak. And last night, the way he just took control of that game, scored his 700th hat-trick, just unbelievable and beautiful to watch, and reminded me, if I'd forgotten or if I'd gone down the road of maybe it's okay if Argentina aren't there. It's not okay. No. I'm delighted he's there. That really struck me. Now look, it's great for Peru as well to be in the position that they're in. I think they're going to advance against New Zealand, so that's going to be a great story for them. But it's all about Messi for me in particular, and I'm glad that Argentina are there. And who knows, scraping in, maybe they can do something.
And that hat trick, it wasn't like it was a scruffy hat trick. It wasn't like he just bundled them in, he was on the goal line. He went and grabbed those goals, and they were incredible goals. He took that team and put them squarely on his back and said, I am Lionel Messi. And it was incredible to watch. He gets so much hate from around the Messi haters. He's been compared to Maradona for his entire career, obviously, but that was a huge step for me. I mean, he's done everything, but to take that national team and drag them to the World Cup, that was an incredible moment.
It definitely was, and I think it helped that Ecuador were much more open than we'll say Peru were in the previous round. Ecuador, they came and had a go a little bit, and they weren't, as we'll say, defensively sound as the other teams were, so that left a little bit of space for Messi to do his magic. But like you said, we do see it when the guy is angry or when he has something to prove. Often, maybe not in the Copa America finals per se, but often he puts the team on his back, and it was just a wonderful performance and a reminder, if we ever needed a reminder, of his genius.
Right. So let's hop on over to Europe now. Things are now set. The playoff draw is in a week or so.
It's in a week, yeah. So we're still in that kind of limbo about what's going to happen. I suppose before we talk about the playoffs, it's the end for Holland. It's just the end. It's like as if the country is gone, or that it's just they've just
they're underwater now. So they're the low country.
Wrap it up, guys. We've quit Holland. No, that's not the case, but they didn't qualify for another tournament. Back-to-back tournaments. Crazy, really bad, and we see the end of a great career.
Arjen Robben is now hanging the boots up. We're no longer going to see him cut inside in that orange shirt and curl it into the far corner. That's sad for me, growing up a Holland fan and loving Arjen Robben. To no longer see him in a Holland shirt is really sad. I love the Dutch, and to not see them in a World Cup it's a tragedy almost.
It is a tragedy. They are one of those teams you associate with the World Cup. The teams in the 70s, even the teams in, like, we'll say 1994, that epic against Brazil, the 3-2.
That Bergkamp goal in '98.
Oh, will we ever forget the commentators screaming, Dennis Bergkamp. But yeah, we've got the playoffs to come now. We've got some teams still alive.
Yeah.
Both Irelands, Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, Greece, and then you've got Italy, Denmark, Croatia, Switzerland. France have qualified. Obviously the Germans have qualified. Portugal qualified with that win against Switzerland.
Into the playoff.
Switzerland into the playoff. England have qualified. Scotland unfortunately lose out. Spain have qualified.
Iceland, a country of 330,000, the size of Corpus Christi, Texas. That's the stat that's going around. 330,000 in, 330 million US out.
It's great that we got the Germanys, the Spains back at it again. You've got Serbia, who a great story, finished top of our group. You've got all those, but I mean, those are kind of expected. For Iceland to repeat the trick again is it's just absolutely amazing.
It's going to be incredible to see how many of those guys, those people show up in Russia just in full force. And they were so much fun to watch in the Euros, and it's gonna be amazing. Those are the stories that kind of like that lift you up. Watching a tiny country like Iceland get into the World Cup and the response from their fans is gonna be incredible. I might have to go get an Iceland shirt.
I mean, that is the
I might have to get an old school Mighty Ducks Iceland jersey, honestly.
I mean, that is a huge leap onto the Iceland bandwagon. You are on that iceberg floating out at sea, my friend. But I will say this: it's an incredible story, and I think it was 15 or 20 years ago they set about making sure they had really good artificial surfaces so that they could play year round. They did a lot with their youth structure. But you know what, more than anything, they're so well organized. They are just perfectly organized as a team. We saw that last year. They're hard to break down, and I mean, they're going to be there with their fans. I would make one request of the French fans: stop trying to appropriate the clap.
Viking clap.
That is
everyone's stealing it.
I know. It's like I saw France qualify the other day, and I'm like, I'm glad you've qualified. You're a great team. You don't need to do that. Like, leave it alone. All right, that's their thing.
That's fair. I'm pretty excited to see the, what is he, 46 million euro or pound man, Gylfi Sigurdsson, curl some free kicks in.
I think Everton fans would be delighted to see that this season. Never mind the World Cup. Forget about the World Cup. But yeah, no, it's
that's a whole other story. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, I think his transfer fee was twice the GDP of Iceland. I just made that up.
I was going to say, if that's a real number, that is absurd.
Number. I don't know numbers.
That's fine. That's fine. All right, guys, I know we're depressed about the U.S. Let us know how you're getting through it. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe. Thank you to JJ Devaney from the Caught Offside podcast. They did a great World Cup episode last night. Make sure you check that out. And get down in the comments and let us know what you're thinking, guys. Thank you, Global fam.